This episode is sponsored by Eternal Ink in Tattoo Smart. Hello. Welcome back. I haven't been here in a couple weeks, and for that, I apologize. I'm Andrew Stortz, and I will be your fearless leader yet again today on this episode 33 of Books Closed. And I thought it was appropriate, after taking a couple weeks off, to talk to people who do things outside of tattooing. Like myself, I do this podcast, and it takes up a lot of my time and energy and thoughts, and I enjoy it, but it can be hard to balance everything, tattooing full-time and all that stuff. You know how it goes, or maybe you don't. So anyway, this week, I talked to Kass, who is responsible for the Instagram page Tattoo Gear for Sale. And I've actually had a handful of people requesting that I talk to him over the time I've been doing this podcast. And I was always trying to think, how would a Instagram page that is geared towards reselling and trading tattoo equipment, how is that interesting for a podcast? Well, it is, because Alex is an interesting guy. So first we'll start off talking to Alex about his experience running that page, and then after that, we talk to tattooer Zach Scheinbaum, who is responsible for Afterlife Press. And he has made amazing books, 2 amazing volumes through Afterlife Press that we will talk to Zach about later on in the show. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. And let's get into my conversation with Kass. Alex, are you there, pal?
Yes, sir, I am. Ahoy, ahoy.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. How's your day going today?
It's going pretty well. We're just talking here about a little Instagram page. You might be familiar with it. It's called Tattoo Gear for Sale. Have you ever seen it?
I think I have. A little more often than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So you started this page when?
I believe it was in 2013. It was actually right around this time of the year. It was like August or September that it first came to fruition.
And what was your initial motivation to start it?
So it started kind of accidentally also. There's a gentleman up in Oregon who tattoos. His name is Justin Nunemaker. And one day I was just perusing Instagram, and I believe I was just going on the tattoo machine hashtag, just like looking at stuff and drooling over it. And he had posted a machine, and I contacted him and I said, man, that thing's beautiful. If you ever want to get rid of it, let me know. And he goes, yeah, I'd actually love to trade it. What do you got? And I, took a couple photos of things that I had and sent it to him, and we literally orchestrated a trade. We didn't know each other, didn't have any mutual friends that I'm aware of at the time. And we, 2 total strangers, just traded an item like on blind faith. And I had been using an Instagram account called Core Shirts for Sale, which is core is short for hardcore, as in hardcore punk music. I grew up in that, and so I was buying and selling records and T-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff on there. So I took those 2 concepts and kind of adapted them and merged them together, and started using it to buy, sell, and trade tattoo equipment. And that was kind of mostly to satisfy the itch that I had to constantly get new stuff and use something and try something. And if I didn't like it, I could pass it on to someone else, Yeah.
So like most good ideas, it satisfied a selfish urge, which
Absolutely.
I find is usually the best because you're passionate about it.
Yeah, totally.
So how fast did the page grow once you had started it?
So for the first month or 2, I left it just totally public, and I told other tattooer friends to, hey, let's just use it. I didn't charge any money for it. We did everything for free just to kind of get it some momentum to get people on there. And I don't have figures about how much and how fast, but in like less than a year, there was like 5,000 or 6,000 tattooers on there, I want to say. And that figure just blew me away to begin with,
Well, I think you definitely started something that a lot of people probably either didn't have the idea for or maybe thought about it and never had the initiative to go ahead and do it.
It seems like it. I get I don't know, a quarter of the emails that come in, they say that, like, man, this thing's a great idea. Thank you for doing it. I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah, because it's so simple, seemingly,
Yeah.
but obviously not. There would have been more pages like that already.
Right. And I think for me, I was just in the right place at the right time. Like I, was using that other page that was from a different industry. And then I orchestrated that trade with Justin. And from there, I was like, oh, this will totally work, And I don't know, it's been a good time.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So it's, I'm sure there's been some trials and tribulations, but we'll get to that in a little bit.
Sure.
So it was an open page at first, you said, and then once you closed it down, you started just screening people, so it was only tattooers? Because that's always been the thing about eBay that people always complain about, that if you put a machine on eBay or if you're trying to sell tat shit on eBay, then it could go to anyone, and you're not really being selective about who gets it.
Yes, and for my belief, that's what most tattooers will prefer about this one is, and even in the informational email that you get from me when you write in, that I even chose to include that at the beginning. I was like, hey, thanks for picking this over eBay to make sure your shit's going to the right place,
And I feel like the tattoo community, or at least one like this, is kind of a self-regulating ecosystem in that people, even though there isn't a feedback system and ratings and all the stuff that you see on eBay or more traditional reselling platforms, I think being held accountable in this space is probably more motivation than people even have with the rating system.
Yes, and that's the one thing that I count on at any given time, and that's one of the reasons where if people work in private studios, it's kind of hard for me to decide. And I never want to be like judge and jury on someone like that, because if I were in this situation, like I wouldn't want to be at the mercy of just some guy,
Yeah.
And
how do you draw the line, I guess, is an interesting question.
It's so licensing is the first way, I ask people if they're in a private studio, I say, are you licensed, And some people are just right away, the second they DM to get added, they're like, here's a photo of my license, here's where I work now, here's the last 3 shops I worked at, if you need to call someone, here's my boss. Like, they're just like on the fucking ball on it, And then there's other people who just write in, they're like, yo, I've been waiting for a month, let me in, asshole. So it kind of goes, either way. So the licensing is the first way, but I know, some states it's still the Wild West, The county that I live in San Antonio, just the shop has to be licensed. The individual doesn't get licensed. Versus like other states I've lived in, each individual person has to get a license.
Right.
So that's the first way, and then there's some other ones where like I just don't know what to do, and sometimes I just leave them in limbo for a while, and then if they write back again and they're like sweet, I don't know, it's so hard, And I talk to people because I never want to look at like the work someone produces and say like that's not a caliber of someone who should be allowed to tattoo. Like I'm not any type of god or any type of fucking person who could say anything like that. So that puts me in like a super difficult position.
I can imagine.
And
have you ever not approved someone just because you didn't like them?
Yes, I will totally fucking cop to that. And then if I can't act like I'm anybody other than myself. And over the 6 years that this thing has been a page, like I started this, I was an even younger man than I am now. Now I'm in my early 30s. I've done a lot more reading. I've fucking gone to psychotherapy, throughout my divorce and shit like that. And I think hey, anybody listening out here at tattooers, if you think you're fucking screwed, go to therapy. Read a fucking book, asshole, all right? Seriously, it'll help you. So I've grown a lot, and I've learned to understand that, the way I've interacted with people in the past shouldn't dictate whether or not they should use this page. Their current behavior should dictate that. So when I have done that, I've made it a point to like go and like unblock those people, and like if they request, I let them on the page and stuff like that. There's definitely some people in my locale here who I don't get along with too well for whatever reason. I'm an abrasive personality, I know that, but there's some.
It's your hardcore roots.
Oh, Jesus, I'm trying so hard to get away from it. Well, that's probably what drew me to hardcore, like anything else, and any type of, what we thought was thinking outside of the box mentality when we were children. And now as an adult, I look back and I was like, that shit's more regimented than anything else. Like there's so many unspoken rules, within that, and within tattooing also. Like there's like so many fucking parallels. But yeah, there's definitely people in my present locale who rubbed me so the wrong way that I'm like, yeah, there's no fucking way I'm letting you use this guy,
Yeah. So speaking of unspoken rules of tattooing, which is kind of a reoccurring theme on this season of the show, have you gotten any pushback from people that about starting the page or running the page where they think that it shouldn't be, or that you're doing it in a way that they don't agree with because of those rules?
Probably. There's definitely. I've had some interactions with people. Some of them I just ignore. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to satisfy whatever type of like fight this person wants to have. I'm not the one. They're just like throwing that on me. I can tell you a story about, and I won't use anybody's name, but this is quite embarrassing, and I love embarrassing myself. It's like very cathartic for me. So. Yeah, there's a gentleman who we all know and most of us love, and a lot of people love to hate him just because he's popular and he's successful and he does a great job at what he does. And he builds machines. And one of my other friends was visiting his shop while on vacation. And he goes, "Hey, I was wondering, do you have a machine I could buy from you?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do." And then he brings up tattoo gear for sale because some of his stuff comes up on there occasionally. He's like, "Why don't you just pull one off of here, you know?" And the way my buddy spun it to me sounded like he was, upset about the page or upset about his stuff on there. And come to find out and talk to him after the fact, he's not upset about anything. He was just, just talking in jest, and my friend was kind of maybe hyping it up a little bit. And so this is quite a number of years ago, and whatever was happening at the time, I was like, man, fuck this guy, blah, blah, blah. And I go and I block him. And not a couple hours later, like everyone else from his shop just like requests to follow the page. And I was like, oh, okay, shit. So I go, I approve all of them, I unblock him. And the next day he just calls me on the phone. Like a fucking man, like an old school man. He calls me on the phone. He goes, "Hey, what's up? You blocked me from the page. I don't think that's necessary. I don't know what happened." And I told him the story. I told him I got my little fucking feelings hurt or whatever. I was like, "Hey, I'm sorry about that. I already unblocked you. Just send a request." And everything's cool now. And now, where I am now versus where I was, I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Now it would just be like, I don't care. Like, he can feel however he wants about it. In the beginning, it was hard for me to separate myself from it because I'm reading all these emails, and they're going right into my face and my eyes and my brain. So I'm like, they're talking to me. They're not talking to me, Alex. They're talking to Tattoo Gear for Sale, which is like its own entity and its own being. And it took me a while to differentiate from that. And while I got everybody on the horn, if you feel like I've done you wrong as a result of that, I apologize sincerely. Write me an email. I'll buy you a beer, whatever it takes. Everything's cool.
Man, you really are evolved.
I'm trying. I don't know.
I've always felt like it's taken me a long time to overcome that like hardcore kid chip on your shoulder that I don't know where it came from. And like you carry it through into your later life, and then you kind of look back and realize that maybe you're not that angry over anything anyway, and it feels good to just let it all go.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you grow up in that music as well?
Yeah, okay. And I was angry and like annoying and stupid and unreasonable about things, I'm sure, in the past, and I definitely carried that through into when I started tattooing and everything, and It felt so good in however many years ago to just like realize it and then just let it go.
Absolutely. I had a buddy come down and get tattooed last year, and we were talking and we were chatting, and I hadn't seen him since I think I live in Texas now, and I was born in the Midwest, and I hadn't seen him in 5-10 years. And he came down and we were talking, and he was just like stopped for a second. He's like, "Who the fuck are you? Like, who are you?" I was like, "I don't know."
That's good. That's a compliment to the progress you've made as a person.
I hope so. It seems like it.
Unless he's like, "Who are you? I used to like the old guy better."
Yeah, it could be. It could. And a lot of people did, because like that version of me was like fucking rowdy and a good time. But like if you were on if you weren't in my side of that, if you were on the outside of that, it was probably fucking rough,
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like coming from that hardcore background, it can be easy to fall into all of us acting the way that we think a tattooer should be acting, and then it kind of makes it even worse, and it can amplify it, and some people come out on the other side, and some people live in that little space forever.
Good Lord.
They're just unbearable to be around.
Yep.
So what would you say is the most common type of item that's sold on the page?
I think just machines in general. Are you asking like type of machine or anything like that, or just?
No, that's what I would have thought. I was just wondering if you had a different take on it, but it seems like machines are definitely the thing that get passed around the most.
Absolutely. And then I think probably books and literature would be second. And then I've I've made a policy where you can't sell flash and art unless it's vintage. It's 20 years old or older. And a couple times where I've either like bent the rules for a friend and posted something for them, or just wasn't paying attention to when it was painted, I just get like my fucking ass chewed instantly. They're like, "That was painted in 2005. It's only 2019." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, guys. I was half asleep. My kids have been screaming at me all day. Like, I apologize. Here, let me take it down. Excuse me. You know."
Well, what's your reason for wanting to exclude newer stuff?
I just didn't personally want the page to be inundated with everybody's own paintings, especially not to describe this in like a negative way, but someone who's green and is like just starting painting and they're super hyped on their stuff. I just didn't want the page to be full with like their painting of like old, you know, Sailor Jerry stuff or whoever it may be, you know. Yeah. And just have the entire page filled with that. And then that void has been filled. Like other people have made like flash pages and trade pages and stuff, and it seems to work. I don't follow them or maintain them, but the glances that I get at them seem successful, you know.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense, because I guess it probably would overtake everything, because the one thing everyone has even more to sell than machines are probably their own paintings and flash and everything.
Right.
And then you'd probably be in the position where you wouldn't want to include certain things, and then you're back to what you said before. You'd be judging people's abilities and kind of hurting people's feelings and stuff.
Yes.
So that makes sense. Yeah, avoid the whole thing.
Right. Just that, you know, we got antique stuff, you know, acetates, whatever it may be, old machines, got new machines, got books, got like actual old flash, big stacks of old flash sometimes, you know, and that seems to work just fine.
What's the most expensive thing you've ever seen sold on the page?
Oh, Christ almighty. People have tried to sell shops on there, whole shops.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Did anyone buy them?
I didn't follow up. I don't know. You know, a lot of times I just, you know, I set it sale, and most of the time I don't follow up. I don't generally have a lot of time to. I remember seeing it though, and I was thinking, just in general in this climate, you know, like in the 80s or 90s, you could sell an entire tattoo shop for, you know, $50,000, $75,000, depending on the name or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think in the modern era, and especially where people can move around so much more, you know, with the internet, Instagram, they can network a lot faster. A shop can just kind of disintegrate in a matter of like 2 to 3 years if all the guys who work there move, and you can't reassemble another crew. So I don't know where the value is, where people used to say that, you know, any running shop was worth X amount of dollars, you know. So I don't know how well it worked, but I don't know if you ever look at Craigslist in your area, like for tattoo stuff, just for like shits and giggles, or to like pull stuff off of there ever. But I'll see people here trying to sell tattoo shops.
Wow. Yeah, I guess I've never even thought to check for tattoo stuff on Craigslist.
You'd be surprised randomly, like somebody like got here in San Antonio. Since I've been here, I've gotten like a whole grip of like Spalding and Rogers kits, like the old toasters, Pumas. I've got a bunch of Kaplan stuff just from like somebody's uncle had it. You know, they fucking ordered it out of Easy Rider magazine or whatever, and it's just been sitting in the garage. You know, so
yeah, I better start looking then. I can score some stuff.
Hopefully.
I'll probably just stick to like buying lawnmower parts and stuff on Craigslist like I normally would, or like a couch.
There you go.
A question that I wanted to get your take on is how you think that your page or anything like it, just like the resellers market that's more accessible on the internet, since we've established that machines are being traded around so much, how do you think that affects machine builders and their sales?
It's hard to say. I get different reports from different people. I talk to some of them and I try to ask them, and if I get their ear or if I'm in person with them and they're talking and they know that I run the page and we talk about it, I always try to ask them. I say, do you feel like this affects you? Has it negatively affected you? And what do you think would work better? You know, I try to be open to that, but specifically from builders, because they're the people who might potentially miss out on a sale as a result of that, versus like unsolicited advice where people just write me a DM or an email cussing me out about something, you know, like that should I just ignore, whatever. But those guys I try to ask, and most of them say that they still sell machines. They still sell quite a few machines, and it seems like another thing that's happened is the resale market has created just like at least this much like distrust between people, where they're like, hey, I could buy this machine, but I don't know, even though I'm supposed to disclose, I don't know if this person has totally disclosed that they've done anything to the machine. And I do my best, and I can only do my best. That's all I can ask myself. And I do my best to include in the seller's rules that you have to disclose, even if you fucking just turn the contact screw just like 2 cunt hairs, like you still have to disclose it, you know? And some people still don't. And if any builders are out there listening to this, I always encourage you guys to look at your own machines and comments on it, but don't comment on other people's machines, because that's a great way to get blocked. And I've blocked a couple builders just for running their mouths on there. Back to the original question. I apologize. It seems like everybody still sells machines and everybody still makes machines. For me, I'll try out a machine if I get it on a trade, and if I like that builder, then personally afterwards I'll go buy another machine from them. You know, if I like a liner from this guy, why not have 2 of them in case one starts, you know, doing something funny? And if I like a liner from this guy, let me try a shader too, and that way I can make it my personal mission to do that, and I imagine most other credible dudes will, you know?
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I think I feel exactly the same way. I mean, it's everyone's right to sell something that they have if they want to get money back for it or to trade it for something else, and I don't think you making a page that's a place for that is there. You can't really say anything about it. I mean, people can have complaints about it, but they can't say that what you're doing is a wrong thing, because it's all of our own shit. You know, we bought it or acquired it, however.
That's how I
was just
feel.
curious, because I can imagine that machine builders might, I mean, you know, people who've been doing it for a while might see a shift or a difference, but obviously you can't blame it on one thing, one Instagram page, or, you know, everything is different, and that's what it is. But I don't know. I wonder if the influx of more tattooers, along with the more accessibility to like trade and stuff, if it's balancing itself out, or
That's my general attitude about everything. You know, people complain about like there's more tattooers than ever before. There's also more fucking people than there's ever been. You know, like there's never been more people in the world than there have now, and there's never been more acceptance of tattoos than there are now. So obviously there's more tattooers, there's going to be more builders, there's going to be more machines. It's just going to keep happening, you know? And I mean, it's not a lossless system. Also, somewhere down the road, someone's going to like totally break a machine or drop a frame and bend it, and it's going to get trashed. So I mean, some of the stuff is literally fucking ended up in a garbage can somewhere. And yeah, to reiterate what you said, I agree that this is just a location to facilitate, you know, what people are going to do anyway. They're going to buy, they're going to sell, they're going to trade. And my hope is that if someone likes something, they'll try to support the builder directly, and they will buy something eventually, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think anyone can really complain or villainize what you've made, because it really is keeping it inside of tattooing in a more controlled way. And I think that used to be the complaint of people, you know, buying and selling and trading elsewhere. So I think it's a good thing. It can only get better with, you know, with someone like you in control of it, or kind of like pushing it in the right direction.
Like I said, I try to do my best.
Yeah, for sure. And that's all you can do.
It's me, baby.
Thank you to Alex for being on the show this week. All of his info will be in the show notes if you want to check out his work or tattoo gear for sale. And now a word from our sponsors. A big thank you to Eternal Ink for sponsoring this episode. You've heard about Eternal Ink quality. It's time to experience it. Have you been tempted to try Eternal Ink? Their 12-color sample set is a great way to experience the remarkable quality of Eternal Inks. With these 12 hues, you'll have all the primary colors, the secondary colors, and more. If you've never used Eternal Ink, this is the perfect intro to the eternal world of color. Sample sets include white, lining black, lipstick red, bright orange, dark brown, caramel, bumblebee, lime green, robin egg, true blue, light purple, and light magenta. And I can say from experience, I've used many of these colors for many years, and they are great. And I'm not just saying that because Eternal Ink is saying nice things about me. And an even better reason to give them a go if you have not yet is that if you head over to eternaltattoosupply.com right now, they are offering a 20% discount off their full retail price on all Eternal Ink colors when you use the promo code BOOKSCLOSED at checkout. This offer includes both single bottles and full sets in all available sizes. It excludes combination with other offers, and it's not to be used with the Color of the Week promotion. So again, head over to eternaltattoosupply.com, use the promo code BOOKSCLOSED at checkout, and get 20% off the purchase of all of your Eternal Ink colors. A big thank you to Tattoo Smart for sponsoring this episode. Let's talk about their digital flash stamp sets. This is the modern version of Tattoo Flash. Tattoo Smart is in constant collaboration with tattooing's most iconic and popular artists to provide the finest examples of flash and design elements, spanning a diverse range of tattoo styles. Choose from the industry's very best to find the exact types of images that resonate with you and with your customers. You can efficiently mock up tattoo ideas and examples, and this is something that you can do in a consultation setting with your clients if you'd like. It really streamlines the process. You can use the images as you would traditional tattoo flash or as a starting point for a more customized design. So what this all means, these are collections of images, flash images, and you can stamp them in, and the way that I like to use them is stamp it in, and it can help you rough out a layout. You can put another layer over it and then draw your version right on top of it, so you can still keep some of that form, or you get that starting point. It really streamlines the drawing process. I dig it. Tattoo Smart has a bunch of great flash stamp sets, like the Peonies and Maritime and Dharma sets. I think you should check them out. If you're feeling like you're mentally blocked with drawing, or that you just draw the same stuff all the time, or you want to try something new, these stamp sets might get the creative juices flowing. So head on over to tattoosmart.com and check them out. There's a special discount for all Books Closed listeners. If you use code BOOKSCLOSED, you get 15% off all of your Tattoo Smart products. Not just the digital stamp sets, but everything else on the site as well. So again, that's code BOOKSCLOSED at tattoosmart.com for a 15% discount off of your entire Tattoo Smart order. So now I'm here with Zach Scheinbaum, right?
Yep.
Baum?
Yep.
Okay.
No, you said that good.
Okay. It felt weird.
It sounds weird too.
It sounds okay. And the reason I've asked you here tonight is not just to practice the pronunciation of your last name, but to discuss a project that you've been working on. It's entitled Afterlife Press. Are you familiar with that?
I've heard the name.
Okay.
It's an independent publishing company focusing on tattoo-related books.
Have you ever made a book before? Because you just finished volume 2.
We just finished volume 2.
So before that, before Afterlife Press, had you ever been involved in making a book?
Not like this. I'd made like a zine or two in college in my brief time there, and dabbled with that kind of stuff. But books have always been really important to me in terms of specifically my tattooing career. So it's I'm obviously super interested in books, I guess. So yeah.
Do you feel like books are becoming obsolete? And I don't think that they would to you or to me, because we value books in a particular way. But do you think young tattooers coming up might not be valuing books as much as they should?
Tattoo specific books?
Yeah, like the books that you make, or the books that we all revere.
I don't think so. I don't think they're becoming obsolete.
Maybe obsolete's not the word, but do you get the feeling that there might be fewer book collectors?
I think there might be fewer book collectors.
Or people that just, because I remember when I was coming up in tattooing, every book that came out, I bought all of them.
Me too.
And it got to a point where I realized that a lot of new books coming out were not that great. So I kind of slowed down and I was a little more selective.
See, you just answered your own question, which is exactly what I was going to say. Is I think the market got oversaturated. And I think there's more books now than there was, but I think the quality is very low. So most of these books coming out are like really, I don't know, they're like poorly put together or not put together by tattooers or big publishing companies coming in and doing these like mass volume interview things where everyone gets like 3 pictures and 1 page written about them, and those do absolutely nothing for me. So I just wanted to make something that I wanted to read, and like the books that I would be excited about. That was literally all I wanted to do. That's the whole idea, was just like, what do I want to look at?
Yeah.
Or read.
And I think that comes across in the books that you've made to date, that it is kind of the opposite of a shitty book.
I hope so. That's nice of you to say. Thank you.
So how did you first approach this?
Yeah, I was lonely and depressed and bored in my apartment in New York, and I lived with a photographer who's one of my close friends, Joey Prince, and I was laying on the couch, and I was like, man, I want to do something. I just want to do something that's more than this. And I don't know. I think I was just turning 30 or just turned 30, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like with life, why are people still tattooing? Why does anyone give a shit past a certain point? So I just like sat down and just wrote like a few pages of like an idea for a project that was different at first than this. And then went to work the next day. I talked to Grez and O'Donnell, and I was like, hey, I have this idea. I want to do this. And they were like, well, send me the thing. So I sent them both the thing, and they never really responded. And then I kept thinking about it and mulling it over and trying to find because I was like, what would be original? What would be a new approach to a book that's not just an interview? And then nothing original came. I was like, you know what? Just two people, keep it simple, get super in depth. I want personal questions. Maybe if I just asked questions about their struggles or real life and like why they're doing things and why they're still happy or not happy and what led to those decisions, it would answer my own questions. So it was pretty selfish, but a lot of people can relate to these immature feelings I have. So it was pretty easy to like do that. And then O'Donnell is always, I think, excited about, he was like, yeah, I'll be the first person. I'll do it. And I was like, okay. And then he was like, you should do grime. And I was like, I don't really know him. I've been tattooed maybe 10 years ago or something. And I was going to get tattooed again coming up there. So pitched him the idea when I was getting tattooed, and Chris sort of loosened him up a little bit, I think, to the idea of it. And then, yeah, I just wish I could redo the first book now because it'd be so much better. But
That's always going to be the case.
yeah, I just know them both so, the interviews would be so much juicier. Chris's might not be. Chris was pretty, it's like I asked him one question and he just talked for like 2 hours. I was like, cool.
Yeah, that's always
Yeah.
going to be the case. I know that usually like the first 30 minutes when I sit down with someone, especially if it's someone that I'm meeting for the first time, it's usually like not as good as the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Or not as good as the 30 minutes where we're talking after the camera shut off, where I'm, packing up light stands and stuff like that.
Sure.
But usually that's the stuff that people don't want recorded anyway. So you got to draw the line somewhere.
You got to think about that. You got to think about what you got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how in depth do you get for these books? How deep? How dirty?
In what? The interviews or the
Everything.
it's up to the artist. That I make that explicitly clear when we start. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna do this interview. I might ask you a bunch of shit you don't want to talk about. And we did have some of this stuff in the second book. That second book took took a lot more work in terms of the text. So I let them know, I'm like, we're gonna do this. I'll transcribe it, and then I will give you the transcription. You can read it over and change anything you want to change when it's written out. And then I'll change my questions, and we'll just so it's almost like it's not a real interview in that sense. It's more a piece of writing on tattooing that sounds like a conversation made by me and them. Some people that I've interviewed, they're like, yeah, it's great, go for it. And other people are like, I'm going to change this, or like, this is the wrong wording for this. Or like with Horitomo, it was a lot of his interview is very specific about specific stories and animals and all this stuff in Japanese culture. And some things we got wrong just because I had no idea what I was talking about, or the transcriber had no idea what they were doing either. So it was a lot of back and forth to make sure it was like actually accurate. And that was really difficult because I couldn't help Taki or Horitomo do it. So they were like, it was a lot more work for them. And I felt really bad about that. So it gets pretty in depth, but also it's up to them. Some people don't want to go there, and that's okay too. I like going there, and it's also like, give me old photos, give me this, it's like, it's really up to their discretion. So That's out of my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry if that's a long answer.
No, that's a good answer.
Okay.
At first, working with Horitomo in particular,
Mm-hmm.
was it intimidating because you knew how specific a lot of Japanese imagery and designs can be? Like, did you feel like you were running into a brick wall with the problems you were just describing at first, or was it what you expected?
It was nothing that I planned. I had a whole list of things to talk about, and we sort of went into we had 3 days together, and the first day we sort of went through most of what I had, and my Tomo was super giving and super just, I mean, I'm intimidated. I think he's one of the best tattooers in the world. So it's a little scary, you know, but Taki has been so nice and helpful this whole time. And Molly, Taki's wife, is amazing. They were all there. So it was like, and Taki's mom helped us translate. So it was like a big group of us. And all the personal questions, we couldn't get too into them for personal reasons with Tomo. So some of those parts of the interview they're just really tight compared to like Garver or something who could freely talk about some of the stuff in his earlier life. So when I came in the second day with Tomo, he pulled out a stack of drawings for back pieces for on sleeves. And then he had the clients come in with those tattoos. And he was like, I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, oh, okay. Didn't expect this. And the client's there and he pulls out the drawing of the back piece and he's like, this is why I did it like this. This is why this figure goes here. This is why the background goes like this. This is why there are cherry blossoms instead of maple leaves. This is why it flows in this direction. And this is why when you turn him around to the front, this is, so he really broke down everything in many of his like big tattoos he's currently working on. I mean, a handful, you know, so that was not planned. I would never ask somebody to do that because that seems like crazy in terms of most tattooers would never go there. We don't have the knowledge or the artistic understanding to be able to look at a tattoo and choose where the viewer's looking. Like Tomo is literally leading your eye through a tattoo without you knowing what you're doing. We're viewing it and we look, oh, okay, there's an Oni or there's a cat or whatever. You're like, oh, look at the eyes first. And then I'm going to look, oh, and then I look at this. But he thinks about all of this stuff. So he's actually, it's just so far beyond any tattooer I've ever met that it was pretty insane. So I didn't expect any of that. So that changed his whole interview into like a scholastic or academic interview instead of a personal interview, which was not my intention going in and was way harder to do because there's way more pressure to make those facts right, you know? So, yeah, not planned.
Yeah. I always find that it's interesting the different directions things can go when you're depending on someone else to be a huge part of, you know, a collaborative, an interview like this or with the books or anything.
Do you find that?
Absolutely.
It just changes sometimes?
Yeah. And sometimes you can go into something expecting it to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And usually it's not. What I find is I always try to have talking points laid out or questions or stuff that I want to make sure that gets covered when I'm talking to particular people. And some people, you read the first line that you have written down, and then they'll talk for the whole rest of the time.
Yeah.
And it's super easy.
That's great.
And some people, it takes a little bit more. And it might just be the comfort kind of unraveling and getting more, easing into the conversation. But I guess I've been lucky because I think tattooers love to talk. And we love to talk about what we do and ourselves and our experiences. And that's the whole point of this show. So I think I'm in a good position to talk to knowledgeable and confident people. But I can imagine that being like a news anchor when you're interviewing some kid who just won a basketball game in high school.
Yeah.
That's probably a lot harder than this.
It's probably really hard. And also, I mean...
But having common ground with the person you're talking with, too, is like huge. That's like 90% of it.
That's true. You can relate on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Some of the newer interviews I've done for future projects have been much harder with people don't want to talk about themselves. I understand that fully. I also understand not wanting to be photographed or things like that just because it's super uncomfortable. So that's a whole nother thing to like be like, okay, no, it's good. You'll be fine. You'll be good. You can change this. You can do this. But, you know, to each their own. I fully respect anything anyone that is
Right.
working with us wants to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think when it comes to presenting someone's body of work the way that you do in these books, it's a lot of trust that they're giving you.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, they're giving me their whole life's work that they feel confident with up to that point. And a lot of people, not a lot, but there's a handful I've asked to do it that won't do it. So that sucks because you think they're great. You're like, you're awesome. What? And they're like, no, no way. There's no fucking way. Especially with Tomo, pairing him was pretty hard because I had like a list of people and then I asked, you know, it was a conversation like, hey, what do you guys think? Here's some people I'm thinking. And when I approached some of them, they were like, no way. I am not putting my work next to that guy.
How do you pitch it to someone?
Well, the pitching I think can stop now. That was the point of these first two, is that I wouldn't have to pitch it anymore.
Right.
I would just be able to be like, well, do you do this? And hopefully they'd be psyched to do it because I want them to know it'll be a super good product that they can be proud of and get back stuff from and be stoked on it. But the original pitch is just like, hey, it's weird because you're just explaining an idea in your head. And you're like, it's going to be great. It's going to be great, I promise. And they're like, okay, great.
But you're trying to convince yourself too.
Yeah, because you're like, I don't know what it's going to look like. And then you make it, and then it's just a digital file that's not physical, and then it's printed, and you never see it. And then it's like distributed from a distribution company, and it just is, knock on wood, successful without you ever touching the product. It's so fucking weird. That is so weird. To me, it's just an idea that generates income to make more of the idea, which is great. It's great. It's great that people want to support it. So, I mean, that's all you could ask for, is that we could keep making them. So,
Right.
yeah.
So how much time are you spending with one of the subjects of the book? How much time are you sitting down with them? I mean, is this like days? Do you go for a weekend somewhere and spend it with someone and dig through photos, or is this like over a long period of time?
It depends who it is. With Tomo, it was 3 full days, and it was like a long weekend. And we did, lunch and dinner every day, and talking, going to his house, going to the shop, going on a walk. We went to like a temple. With Garver, it was like, I think we did 3 interviews with Garver, but spread out. So we did like his house, the shop, then the shop again, and then a shooting day at the shop, and then a shooting day at his house. And then he gave me a big old stack of photos, and we went through those, shot and scanned a lot of those. I don't know. It's not that much. 4 or 5 hangouts that are probably a few hours each.
That's cool.
If that,
I would have guessed it would be more.
It's not much more. I mean, luckily with like O'Donnell, worked with him for years, so we could keep talking. It was a constant conversation at the shop. So it'd be like, what do you think of this? So that was fun and easy, but.
And I think you kind of need someone like a friend like Chris was to you at that time to be part of the first go at it. Because if you just had 2 total strangers, I think that it could be so uncomfortable for you that it might almost like sour the experience.
It would be hard. And that there's been massive amounts of stress involved in both volumes when they're like almost done, to where I'm like, oh man, this is like one thing will go wrong. And then I'm like, this isn't going to work. Like someone's going to pull out of this project. I don't know why I think that. I just get my mind, I overthink everything. So yeah, there's been like sleepless nights for sure trying to make these work. But yeah.
That means you're into it.
I guess that means I'm into it.
I think that sleepless nights are inevitable.
I guess so.
So you said that you were at least at first, seeking selfishly answers for yourself from these people and the way that you talk to them and the kinds of questions you'd ask them.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing 2 volumes of the books, do you think you found any answers for yourself that have been what you're looking for or otherwise?
For me,
Yeah. What have you learned?
it's not good. It's not a good answer. uh, what's weird is doing these books has sort of man, I'm trying to think of how to say this without sounding horrible. It's sort of ruined me as a tattooer slash artist in terms of like, so when the inception of the idea came up, okay, I need to start with like the biggest names in the industry that I look up to. And the quality of the artwork comes first. Personality comes second. Because I don't know everyone, so I'm like, okay, let's just shoot big so that I can get these other people in later on that maybe aren't so well known. You know what I mean? Like, so when you start with these people that give everything in their life to tattooing and try so hard and are so good at their craft, it sort of killed me in the point of like, I was like, I can't. This is awesome. I love seeing their inspiration and their creativity. And like, I think a lot about using reference. I mean, I have stacks and stacks of these people's drawings, original art. Like I never look at it ever. If I'm drawing a snake, I'm not like, oh, let me just see what Tomo did on this. It's like, it's not even an option. So like in a way it's isolated me because I'm self-conscious about the ideas and trying to be unique in my own way. And at the same time, younger than these people. So obviously there's going to be there. I shouldn't be comparing myself in any way. And I'm not comparing myself in like oh, I'm not good, but I'm comparing myself in like I will never be that good. So maybe I just shouldn't try anymore. And I know that that doesn't sound good. And obviously I'm still trying. I love tattooing. Everything I do is tattooing. But
I think that's a pretty sensible reaction. If
it
anyone who
killed
thinks
me
about
sort
it,
of. Yeah, I
yeah,
was like, oh, fuck. Well, now I sit and watch Grime Tattoo every day. I'm like, yeah, well, that's fantastic again.
well,
There's no
these
way I can do
people,
that.
yeah, I mean, these people are like anomalies. These are not
Yeah.
normal. I mean, these are people that people make books about,
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
the whole point. But
But
I can also see the pressure to keep up that caliber as you continue. I think it's
yeah,
not that it's easy to make one great book, but you can make one great book. But I think it only gets harder as you get into it.
I mean, the books I'm fine with. That doesn't kill me. The books I have fun with. I'm just speaking about tattooing for me, like my own tattooing.
Yeah,
The books, I love making the books. They're fun. It's not tattooing, but it's still tattoo related so that I can get super into it. I have a lot of fun with the design side now. In the Tomo book, I got to lay out almost half of it myself, which was really fun. So the the two designers we were working with on that book, we like had little templates that we sort of plugged things into, and I just like we sat there next to each other for a few weeks, and it was awesome. I like that kind of stuff because it's different.
yeah.
A little bit of a change.
Do you have any other hobbies or outside interests outside of tattooing that you are into or you have been into over the years that kind of give you a similar like mental break from tattoos at least?
I read a lot. I like movies and shows and stuff. I used to make a ton of music growing up. I still do here and there. I paint. Yeah, paint, art, mostly that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's always so valuable to have just something else,
Yeah,
whatever it is. Even if it's like, you know, parallel to tattooing
yeah,
or close to it. I think it's just anything that's not sitting there with someone and tattooing them is
yeah,
like the best thing ever.
yeah.
And you need it.
You do need it. I need escapism. I realize that. I've always needed it my whole life. But now I accept it and try not to feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I think there's some guilt built into it because I know when I first started, it was like everything was tattooing. You'd be at the shop 7 days a week. You can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And then you finally hit a point where it's too much.
Yeah.
And not that it's bad, but that you need to like take a breather, but you feel guilty about it, or you feel that you shouldn't because it's like an injustice to your customers or to yourself or whatever it is. And I feel like I've always seeked outside projects, and looking back on it, maybe it's to validate me not focusing 100% on tattooing, just internally.
Like this podcast.
Completely.
Yeah. Because it's the exact same thing. It's still tattooing, but you get to experience some new things and talk to different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, guilt is my number one emotion probably, or feeling. I can say that pretty clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because anytime I'm not tattooing, like I'll even tattoo all day, go home, make dinner, put the TV on, and then I'm like, feel sort of bad right now. Should I be drawing or something? Fuck it, I'll just watch TV. But then I feel bad. We always just feel bad. Should I paint? Nah, I don't feel like it today. And then you don't, and then you feel worse. It's like such a battle.
Well, how do you get over that?
You just live with it. I don't know. Smoke weed. I don't know. You got to do something else to take your mind off of it.
Yeah.
Or paint. Just do it.
Right.
As Chris always told me, a few minutes a day will make you feel better. So,
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to push through those feelings of, just not wanting to do more. But it's okay to not do more sometimes, because I always feel like I come back stronger. If you're at a down point for a week or two, or you don't want to do extra shit and you just don't care, and all you can make yourself do is like what is required of you by your schedule or whatever it may be, and sometimes that's enough or too much.
It's refreshing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, since I started tattooing, I took a trip in last November for a month. It was like 28 days, no tattooing. It was the longest I've ever gone. And I was like, this is crazy. I don't even know if I'm going to remember how to tattoo. I sat right back down and started tattooing. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like a day went by, but I was packed full of like inspiration, tons of photos from the trip and like all this stuff. And it was like, you still think about it every second of every day. So you're like, okay, oh, I could use that. Oh, look at this pattern on those curtains. Like, I could use that. It's like you're always thinking about stupid shit like that. So, yeah.
I feel like it's nice to have those experiences and know that you don't have to like go right back to the shop the next day too.
Should I not curse on this?
That's fine.
Okay.
It's a tat podcast. It's all good.
Oh, we're tat talking here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tat people swear. They say shit and fuck sometimes.
They do. Shit fucker. Okay, don't put that in.
No, I'll take that out. I don't want to lose my Hanes sponsorship.
Damn it. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I got the fruit of the loom, so.
Right. Oh, no, don't say that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No competitor talk.
What were we talking about? Tattooing?
Guilt. Tattooing.
I think I'm starting to enjoy almost too much, like justifying taking breaks from doing work.
What? You're like, I'm going to eat this sandwich now. Sorry, guys. I got to step out for a second and just make up excuses like that all the time. You're talking about real breaks.
Yeah, like bullshit. I'm like never stepping away from working or anything. But
yeah.
Yeah, like if I have one day off per week to myself, if I don't do anything, which is kind of rare, but if I'll allow myself to do it without guilt.
That one day.
Yeah, or whenever you get the chance.
What do you mean by allow yourself no guilt?
That's the problem in itself.
You just say, I'm not going to feel bad today.
Yeah, like today I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch Jersey Shore for 3 hours.
Longer than that.
Or more.
Yeah.
However many episodes I have to catch up on.
Okay.
And it's okay. And I'm not sitting there with like a book on the table or my iPad and my thing or like my schedule here or my computer to like edit all these videos that I'm supposed to edit and just like not even create the illusion that I'm going to try to do anything.
Okay. And then you just
hang out.
Go to sleep, and then you don't wake up and be like, that was a wasted day.
Well, first I wake up and I say, God, Still alive.
Damn it.
Just kidding, Dad. I know you listen to all my podcasts. I don't feel that way. But I feel like it's only been maybe in the past year where I've felt okay with not doing something at all times.
How old are you?
Turning 33 next week.
Cool. Happy early birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
How long have you been tattooing?
12 and a half years. Not that long.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like I always read in old interviews that people would always say that the 10-year mark is where you really start to like see things click, or like you start to understand how tattooing works a little more.
That's what was told to me.
And I feel like there really was a change, and I don't know if I can really pinpoint what it was, but I feel like there was some clarity, not really in like the actual application of a tattoo necessarily, but just like how it fits in your world. And maybe that has something to do with me being able to watch Jersey Shore all day on a Wednesday.
I think after 10 years, personally, I will never say I have any idea what I'm doing, but I'd say after 10 years, I was no longer ever nervous to do a tattoo. That was gone by that point. Any part of the body, any tattoo, more or less, be like, okay, sure. You know the homework. If you don't do it, you can probably still pull it off just fine. So like, I think a lot of the nervousness and like stress went away around then for me. And I was like, okay. So now it's a matter of like forcing yourself to try. You're like, okay, someone wants a sleeve. I could just do it like this, like A, B, C, which I know. Or I can spend 2 weeks trying it and show all of my coworkers and see how they would recommend I improve this. And then you're actually tattooing. Then you're really trying to make a difference and trying to further your own artistic vision of whatever you should be doing. But we're all lazy. We're all pretty lazy. Not all of us, but it's like a pretty common, if you can do a good tattoo the way you know how to, why change it? And I think it's the people that want to change it that I find interesting. So, yeah, that's the 10-year mark story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. It's something.
Yeah, it's me, baby.
A big thank you to Zach for being on the show this week. And if you want to check out more about his work or about Afterlife Press, there are links in the show notes, so you can find all that very easily. A huge thank you once more to our sponsors this week, Eternal Ink and Tattoo Smart, who both have been great supporters of the show this season and beyond. As always, I'm Andrew Stortz. You can find me on Instagram at Andrew Stortz, or come see me at the brand new Worship Tattoo in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. If you enjoy the show, leave a rating or review on iTunes, or head over to booksclosepodcast.com, where you can see everything you would ever need to know about this show. Also, you will be able to hear more of both of these conversations from today's episode on this week's extended episode, so keep on the lookout for that if you want to hear more from Alex and Zach. This has been fun. It's nice to be back. I had a little break. I've been taking some breaks this season. I'm trying not to burn myself out on making this show. So a little week here off, a little week there off. Goes a long way for me, so thanks for hanging in there for me.
Yeah,
Hope you've been enjoying the show. I will be back next week.
I really. Yeah.
No, I will. I very much plan to be back next week. We have a few more episodes this season, so don't count me out yet. I'll see you then.